Hello, I'm Emma of Granola Gear, and I'm so excited to be chatting with you again today about something I have been thinking about a lot lately, and that is warm weather summertime knits. It's taken me some trial and error to figure out my own summer knits journey, and I know it can kind of be not for everyone because they just don't work for everyone. It can be hard to figure out how to knit well and knit successfully for the summertime, especially if you live somewhere that's a little bit warmer. So I kind of thought it would be nice to do a breakdown of what I've found makes knitting for warm weather successful for me as the cop drives by. So I'm going to give you sort of my recommendations, what I look for, what I try to avoid, and then some more specific like patterns and yarns that I think would work well for summertime or have worked well for me in the summertime. And all of that, just to kind of, if you're on your summertime knitting journey, to give you a bit of a head start, so maybe you don't have to do as much trial and error as I did to figure it out. I'll start by telling you a little bit about the climate that I live in, so you can kind of get some context for where this is coming from, like what might be a little bit different for you depending on where you live and that kind of thing. I live in the northeast of the US, so New England. I live in Massachusetts in the Boston area. So we do have longer, colder winters. I spent most of my life in Maine, which is a little bit further north with a little bit longer and colder winters. So I'm all in on the wintertime cold weather knits. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. Um, but I did do a small stint in Southern California, so I have also experienced the hot, dry summer times. I know what that is like. So I got a little bit of both sides. I'm very simple when it comes to summertime dressing. I go for plain, basic, simple, flowy cotton t-shirts and shorts or summer dresses and Birkenstocks. I'm relatively active, not like a runner, but I walk around a lot in the summertime. Most of our transportation is on foot. So I want something that I can move around in and I'm not going to get crazy hot and sweaty because there's nothing I hate more than being sweaty, if we're being honest. So my journey has been figuring out how to knit for the climate that I live in. It's usually in like summertime here, it can be between like mid 70s and high 80s in Fahrenheit. Sometimes a little hotter than that, it can be 90s. So it gets pretty hot. And it is also a little bit humid. Not like tropical humid, but definitely nowhere near as dry as somewhere like Southern California. We get some rain. It's not constant, depends on the summer too. But yeah, there's some humidity and that does change kind of what you can wear because you are going to feel a little bit more warm with humidity. In the desert kind of climates, you might be hot, but that sweat is getting sucked right out of you. So you don't even feel it on its way here. You can wear more things, I think, without feeling like really uncomfortable. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And knowing this, when I started my summer knitting journey, and so many designers are Scandinavian, they live in these Nordic countries, and they have long, cold winters. And I've always experienced long, cold winters. And so I thought, like, of course it's going to be a little longer and it's a little colder, but how bad can their summers like really like are they've got to be similar to the ones I had, maybe a little bit cooler, but like what does that even really mean? So some of them you see them knit in cashmere, you see them knit merino and like that kind of thing for summertime, and you think like I guess I could give it a shot. Like maybe wool has all these magical properties and they work for summertime too. And I learned relatively quickly, sort of, that that is not really the case. I actually had a comment a couple months ago where I was sort of talking about this a little bit in one of my podcasts, and the commenter had said, like, I grew up in New England and I live in a Scandinavian country, and they actually have like much less humid summers. So it is a different experience. It's going to feel a little bit cooler, and what you can get away with wearing is definitely different. So now when I look at what people post and what I see on the internet, I kind of have to filter my mind through that. Like they live in a different climate, period. Like wintertime, we're kind of all just trying to be warmer. So it's just about how thick of your sweater are you going to wear. Summertime, when you're just trying to be cooler, it is a little bit different, I think, especially because so many knitting fibers are like insulating. That's just kind of the nature of it. So that's kind of why I think this is an important topic to talk about, especially like if you live, there's a lot of people in the northern half of the US and we have different summer times. Like Pacific Northwest is very similar to where I live. So there's a lot of us. It's important to talk about. So I'm going to go into kind of like my recommendations, general recommendations and things that I look for and things that I avoid. And then we're going to do some more specific patterns and designers and that kind of thing. And we'll start with yarn. I would avoid knitting with anything heavier than a DK. I think in general, like if you're knitting something really flowy and loose, some of these are a lot more flexible. Because if you've got a lot more air going on, it's a little bit different. But generally, I would not do anything heavier than a DK. And a DK in peak summertime can be pushing it. It's going to depend on the fiber. It's going to depend on the pattern too. But DK is like about the limit, I think, of like really realistic summertime knits for the most part. You just get too hot, especially if you're like I wear a backpack to work. I get really hot in my back when I'm walking with a backpack on. Anything heavier than that is just going to be too warm. I avoid anything that's really more than 20% animal fiber. I think a little bit can be okay. It makes the yarn feel a little nicer when you're knitting. But more than that is just going to be too insulating, generally speaking. And I would, if you're going to do something that's partially an animal fiber, I would look for something that's like partially merino, not partially just wool, because merino is going to be a lot softer, a lot better for next to skin, especially because as you get warmer, at least as I get warmer, things feel itchier. So something that's like woolly and might not bother you on a cold winter day, once you get kind of hot and start sweating, it's going to irritate your skin more. So you're going to want something that's even softer really than you normally would. So I wouldn't really go higher than 20% animal fiber. After that, you're kind of just risking it a little bit. Maybe earlier in like the spring and like late in the fall, but for summer warm weather time, it's going to be something you want to avoid. I also would generally avoid really fuzzy yarns, even if they're cottony. For one, I hate when yarns shed like all over my couch and everything as I'm knitting with them. That drives me insane. And like fuzzy, like cotton yarns that are more brittle and like lots of pieces come off in your hands definitely can shed. But also, as soon as you start sweating, and cotton does not wick away that that liquid, that water as much, it gets stuck in those fuzzy little fibers if it's not as smooth, and it just feels like you're wearing a wet sock. And no one wants to wear a wet sock. So I personally stay away from the fuzzy, even cotton yarns. And along with that, on the other end of the spectrum, I don't really like the super shiny yarns. There's a lot of yarns that are like rayon based. They're not going to say rayon. It's like a bamboo or a tencel or a lyocell. Those are all just different names for rayons, which are plant fibers that have been chemically processed to make them into the fiber that you get. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like you can't really just spin bamboo out of the trunk like you can spin cotton from the cotton ball that you get from the plant. I don't know everything about everything, but there are chemical processes that need to be involved. But the issue I find with shiny yarns is that though they can be nice to knit, it's really, really difficult to join yarns and weave in your ends in a way that's not super noticeable. I have a piece that I knit in a very shiny, like rayon-based yarn, and I never wear it because one, it's like almost too drapey, and two, you can totally see where I tried to weave in my ends, and I've actually tried to fix it a number of times, and nothing that I've tried looks any better. So keep that in mind. There are some yarns that are like a partial rayon. I think that's okay. Like it might give it a little bit more shine, but like the really, really silky, shiny yarns like that, just keep it in your head that might be a difficulty and it might not work for every pattern that you're going to try and do. And just in general, I would avoid synthetics for summertime yarns. In the wintertime, you're trying to be warmer and synthetics are going to make you warmer, though they won't be as breathable, so I can understand using them. They also are going to be a lot cheaper than most animal fibers, so that's totally fair. But in the summertime, cotton is really cheap. It's not that expensive. I think it's very comparable to synthetic fibers. So I think it makes a lot more sense for a lot of reasons to knit with a cotton versus a synthetic for summertime. It's going to be more breathable. It's going to be a more pleasant experience to wear, and it's going to be a similar or even like lower price point. And there's tons of color options, tons of different types of cottons. Lots of places make cottons. So yeah, avoid synthetics, generally speaking. So those are my yarn recommendations. And then for patterns, and like I said before, this can all kind of be mitigated with a really boxy fit. So some of these don't necessarily have to be rules. I mean, they're not rules by any means, but if it's really flowy or really boxy, you might be able to get around some of these things. I would avoid heavy cables and texture. Some texture that's not making the fabric denser is okay, like a broken rib or that kind of thing are pretty common, but I would avoid cables because it's just going to make a thicker, denser fabric. So even if it's in a lighter weight yarn, it's going to be just more on your skin. It's going to make even a lighter weight yarn a lot thicker. Something like a really light fingering you could get away with, like there's always some kind of workaround, but the DK weight cabled shirts I kind of get pretty iffy on because they're just going to get heavier and warmer. Maybe in some summer yarns, but you got to feel it out. I would also avoid stranded color work. You can do intarsia because that's still going to be one layer throughout of fabric. You're not getting, like with stranded color work, you have where everyone stitches, there's going to be a strand of another color below. So you're making basically like a double thick kind of fabric, which is going to be a lot warmer. So that's also something that I would generally avoid. Even though they're really pretty and I love color work, it's not as realistic. Depends on where you live, depends on what you like, all of that, but it's generally what I would avoid. And for me, and this is going to be hard to hear because it's hard for me to hear too, I avoid a lot of lace pieces. And I know you're thinking, that's crazy, the lace just makes it airier and easier to wear. So this is where it's partially me. I will prefer to wear a bra under my pieces, and I don't usually want to be able to see my bra through my shirt. So I would have to wear a tank top between my top and my bra if you can see my bra through my shirt, you know? So that means another layer that's going to make me warmer or going to make me just not want to wear the piece at all because it means I have to wear another layer. So keep that in mind because some pieces have really pretty lace yokes, but the lace yoke comes down really far. And then because it comes down really far, I have to wear a tank top. But now that I have to wear a tank top, I don't want to wear the piece at all. I got last year because I just got really sucked in by the Barbro top, which is a Knitting for Olive pattern that's all over lace. And it's really beautiful, and I knit it. And partially because it didn't fit me very well, but partially because it was lace. I've never worn it because I have to wear a tank top underneath. And it's just not comfortable, and I just don't want to, and it's too warm. So if you're going to have to layer, keep that in mind about how realistic that is for you. Maybe you don't care. I don't know. But me, personally, I don't like to. It's not comfortable. I want to wear just my top. That's all I want to wear. I actually have recommendations for bra-friendly tank top patterns. I'll link that below so that you can find it. I haven't knit all of them, but they're all pieces that are a good, are well formatted for being able to wear a bra underneath without like having to put your straps in some crazy way or whatever, because some of those pieces are like that, and that's also something that I personally try to avoid. Obviously, you can do whatever you want, but that's just me. I'm a really simple, basic person, and that's what I go for. So that's something to keep in mind. And now we're going to get into a few more specifics. I'll start with the yarn, and then I'll go into like the patterns and designers. For recommendations, I'm going to give you mostly stuff that I have personally knit with. And there are a ton of summer things that I personally knit with, but I don't want to like recommend something that I don't know much about really, or like I'm not confident in, because it's a little more sensitive when it comes to summertime of what is and isn't going to work realistically. So Drops Saffron is 100% cotton. It's a fingering weight yarn, and it works really well. It's really in a good place on the too textured or too shiny scale. It's nice to work with, not too difficult, but it isn't too shiny, so I've liked it. Paintbox has cotton that is, they have a fingering weight and a DK. Those are both pretty good too. Lots of color options. A little bit fuzzier, but not too fuzzy. And two of the nicer yarns are Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. It's one of the best priced 100% silk yarns on the market, honestly. It's barrette silk, so it's not too shiny. You can weave in your ends without much difficulty. And silk is great for summertime. It lasts forever. It's really strong, and it's like a more cool to the touch fiber that you can wear for more of the year. It's a really lightweight yarn, but it's great for making something that you're going to have and wear for forever. And also the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. I haven't worn this as much, but I have knit with it. It's a very pleasant experience. It's got a like, I think it's either 20 or 15% merino content. They've got great color options. It knits. It feels really nice when you're knitting. The merino makes it a little softer. Also very lightweight, so that kind of counteracts some of it. And it's just a pleasant yarn, I would say. It's a good cotton merino option. Some yarns that I have on deck that I have not knit with that I think will be good options are the Hobbii Friends Cotton, another basic cotton yarn if you're already ordering from Hobbii. The Friends Cotton Silk, I have this in the mail. It's a DK weight yarn. It's a DK, but because it's like more plant-based, I think it'll be a good summer option and maybe a little bit lower cost than like 100% silk and a heavier weight too. If you aren't convinced to invest your time in a light fingering weight piece yet. And last we have the Sannisgarn Lena or Tin Lena. I have Tin Lena ready for a t-shirt. This is a little on the shinier side. We'll see how it goes, but I think it's okay. It's not too crazy. If you want to watch my future podcasts and see how it goes, it'll be in there soon. And that's a like partially linen, partially more rayon based yarn. So those are my couple of recommendations. For designers and patterns, a lot of these are bigger designers just because they kind of have more options for summer. There aren't a ton of summer patterns out there. And I'm going to be honest, based on kind of what I've talked about, they're going to be more boring just because I feel like some of the fun stuff that you can do with knitting just don't work as well in summertime, which is, it sucks, but kind of is what it is. If you want to make stuff that you're actually going to wear, which is really important to me, I don't want to make it just because I want to make it because I'm going to wear it all the time. So Ozetta has some really pretty lightweight pieces. I really would like to knit the Moonset tee, which is a light fingering weight piece. It's like a high V-neck. It's not too low, so you won't do as much flat knitting. I think it's a raglan. It's got a really nice collar that I like, and she has a couple others like that. I haven't knit her yet, but she's on my list, and I have some friends who have knit her, and that is Lily Kate Makes. She has a bunch of different really well-fitting, nice t-shirts that are very polished looking and have some nice little details. The one I'm going to knit is DK. I think she has some lighter weight ones as well, though, like the Calm Down Tee. My favorite things, Knitwear has some great tank tops. I know not all of them have a huge size range, though I believe it has gotten better in her more recent patterns. I really, really love my camisole number 9. It's such a classic, beautiful tank top pattern. I know it's a really lightweight knit, but there's no sleeves, so it takes less time, less yarn, and I highly recommend it. It's a great piece. I'd love to knit another one. I really would like to this season. But yeah, beautiful piece. There's Irene Lin. I believe she's a Southeast Asian designer. A lot of Southeast Asian, because it's like a warmer, more tropical climate, have some great summertime pieces. A lot more crochet though than knitting. It's more common down there. And she has the Shauna tee, which is really beautiful, and the Lyra tee. Both beautiful. There's also a couple others that I really, really love. If you're looking for something that's less basic, hers are more interesting and have texture that's not really going to make it a much thicker piece. And she's got a lot more flowy stuff that I like. I'd really like to knit one of her pieces this year. Hopefully it happens because I kind of have a bunch of other stuff on the docket, but we'll see. But her pieces are really beautiful. Wool and Beyond has a handful. She came out with some nice basic tees that have some nice set-in sleeves. She has a boxy tee and a baby tee that are really nice in a lighter weight yarn. And then we've got our classic petite knit. Some people are haters, but the Cumulus tee can't go wrong. It's beautiful. I've knit one in the merino that I learned was not a good summertime piece. One I knit with long sleeves in a cashmere, and then I have cast one on in the pure silk for this year that I'm really excited about. And I think maybe this year I will knit an Odak one later in the year, hopefully. I also love her Friday tee. That's probably one of my most worn summertime knits because it's great for the office. It looks really professional and nice. I love the broken rib. You get 2 colors with the stripes without getting any kind of double thickness. It's really comfortable and I really like it. Mine's in 100% cotton. And I really like that piece. And last, Starcross Knits. I just have to mention this pattern because it's beautiful and it's a great option. The Ophelia tank. There might be a sleeve option as well, but it's this really nice V-neck tank that has lace, but it's all as like this wide border, so you get the really pretty lace look without it being like in the area that your bra would be. So it's a great bra-friendly top. Highly recommend. But yeah, those are kind of my recommendations. If you've got a pattern or a yarn that you really recommend for summer, drop it in the comments and let other people know. feel like it's kind of harder to figure it out. There's not as much information out there because people just don't knit as much in the summertime. I hope you learned something from this. I hope this has benefited you in some way. If you're interested in seeing what I knit this summer and what my plans are, my plans video is going to be out pretty soon. And I update my podcast regularly about what I have been working on. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. You can find me on Instagram at granola.gear. I hope you have a great day and happy knitting.